this has become a very famous word, unlearn. For a long time, I learned architecture and then I left architecture. So I pursued something else in the process. I was not designing buildings anymore. I was designing cities. I was designing landscapes. Bigger scale work. So what happened to me is, so they taught me songs, Rahman songs, Ilayaraja songs, all songs in architecture school. But what remained is, at the end of all this, is Saringama Pa, that's all. So now I had the freedom to really compose my own songs. So what I want to say is, don't really follow any style, don't follow any ism, and of course, you can always follow groundbreaking. You can create an architecture that will tell you a story after you are gone, Then in 2016, I don't know whether Lijo Joseph, you're all from this school. Lijo told me, I was asking Lijo, hey Lijo, you guys know Lijo Joseph? Huh? Yeah? Okay. So I was talking to him and I said, hey, are there any really good books on architecture? Then he said, oh, there is this guy called Peter Zumthor from Switzerland. You should read his books. And I suggest you guys to read these books. These two books by Peter Zumthor. They're like diaries. Very thin, very small. Probably in one day you will finish. But then if you really understand what he's saying, you will change yourself as a designer forever. Peter Zumthor talks about sensuality in architecture. Architecture is not just for eyes. There was a time in Renaissance period, architecture became oculocentric. Oculocentric means something that pleases eyes. But then architecture is not just for eyes, it's for the senses. It's the material, it's the smell, it's the way a house or a structure you build responds to climate. It's all about bringing elements into the house, light coming in, rain coming in, leaves falling in, house or a structure. So Peter Zumthor's work really influenced me. So when I read Peter Zumthor's work, I could really relate all those abstract thoughts about history, memories, place-making, presence, atmosphere, everything to, this guy kind of summed up everything for me. So I would strongly suggest that you guys start reading this book. So after I read this book, for me architecture was no more about how beautiful a building looks. It was all about sensuality, it was all about experience, it was all about a story. It's all about doing something that exists for its own sheer beauty. Not for pleasing any other, not following somebody, not to please anything around me, just myself. It's like a monk. I compare this to somebody who has realized he does not care. He just walks, right? So Zumthor's work is like that. It's very primordial, it is very simple, it is very honest, it is very naked, but it is rich with history, it's rich with continuity, it's rich with sensuality. So what that led to is, I lived outside, but I always loved Tumakuru, so I wanted to build a house in Tumakuru. So after reading Zumthor's work, I felt that probably this could be the beginning of a project for myself. When I'm presenting this work here, I don't want to talk like an owner of a house, but I would like to talk more like a designer, because I was heavily involved in design. And I also need to mention that I don't know whether Praveen, anyone knows Praveen here? Oh, okay. There is an architect by name Praveen Ejman. He runs a practice called Y Architecture. I collaborated with him in the earlier stages of the project till we finished the shell. Then I collaborated with Rajeshwari Gauri Shankar, who heads both design group during the detailing and finishing of the house. So they really deserve the credit, of this project. Why I call it as House of Memories? Because all these influences that I'm talking about, in a way, I feel that we have kind of incorporated them into this house in a very subtle way. It's like a background score of a movie. You feel it's there, but you feel it's not there. The challenge of an architect is to take the past and distill it in a vocabulary that is not totally evident, but still it has the spirit of the vocabulary. So then, when I was thinking about this presentation, I just went back. This was 7 years ago, and then I was looking at the brief that I wrote for this house. So this was the brief. that I wrote probably 6-7 years ago. Coming to architecture, I want something that is just simple to the core with truth and honesty. An expression or a language that does not belong to time. So it should be timeless, in a way ageless. Rather, a rare quality that I have seen in only few buildings till now. You might have seen, you might go into some old houses in Malnad or some temples, Dravidian temples. You feel that they're not built probably 400 or 500 years ago. They have been there forever. You have gotten that feeling. You go somewhere and you feel that I cannot really categorize this anywhere. I cannot put it into any category. It exists for its own. Its sheer beauty, sheer presence. I have felt this whenever I go to some of the temples. And I have felt it whenever I go to some of the houses in Malnad. Recently I visited a house which is probably 250 years old. And I felt it when I went there. It just is mesmerizing. There is this quality of timelessness to these buildings. So I want light, I want darkness. Play of light in different periods of the day. All this simplicity that we hold on to can be liberated in few details. So what are I'm bringing here? I'm going to kind of show you how it has been translated into the house. Okay? A strange amalgamation of industrial, contemporary, raw, sensual is simplicity with sensuality. I call it essential. Yet bold with undertones of traditional character that is ageless. So what do we really explore in this house? As I said, the way we should be looking at the house as a typology, it should be very, very different now because of the way our cities have grown, the way our cities have exploded, the way our cities, to be frank, I would say this, have become chaotic in the name of development. So there is nothing to really see outside. If you look at a lot of the work from Japan, you see that a lot of the buildings are like sanctuaries. They are looking inward. So the time has come in India, except for some rural areas and areas where people can afford mountain parks or beaches. You need to really create an architecture that is inward looking than outward looking. That's what we explored here. We explored a house which is inward looking. And also I was very much into this idea of fragmentation of the program. If you think about a traditional house, it's a big volume within which there are common walls. Common wall is a common vocabulary. So, in this house, what we did, can we really fragment this program, pull the program apart and introduce interesting spaces that become more important than the program itself? In that process, what happens is living is looking at the dining, dining is looking at the living, living is looking at the room. And in smaller sites, what happens is you will be able to see the whole expanse of the site when you fragment the program. This is all about investigation of a typology. Can we really take the spirit of a 30 money? You all know 30 money, right? You guys know 30 money? Yeah? Yes? Yeah. So, can you really take 30 money and then can you really interpret it in a contemporary sense? What the product will be? That was also a kind of an idea that we were pursuing when we were thinking of this design. And then we said, okay, let us restrain our approach to the shell. Restrain is the simplicity. Whatever you feel like doing, you don't do it. We are tempted. And the mind today in this technological world is influenced by so many things. Pinterest, Architecture Digest, Design Boom. There are so many websites you see things. There are so many architects, so many variety of work that influences you. When you're designing, all that comes to you in your mind and you want to express it. But what we want to do in this project is not to do any of that. Do what is the simplest. Do something that is just that. Do something that is just honest, naked. Okay? That was also a kind of an experiment that we tried. And then we said, and I have to say this thing, restraint is not a weakness. It is a strength. You should know when to stop your work. You should know when to stop your investigation. Let's say you're doing a project. You can take, let's say you take a room 10 by 10. You can design that throughout your life. It's possible. But then there comes a point where you feel that, this has reached a stage. You should know when to stop it. Otherwise, you might go beyond that and get influenced by so many things, and then you lose this whole idea, a singularity with which you started the work. So it is always important to restrain yourself from all the temptations you want to do in design. And I was talking to somebody yesterday about this idea of restraint. Why restraint? There are a lot of museums in Washington DC. If you go there, there are a lot of classical museums where you see 100 paintings. There are also modern art galleries where you will see only 5 paintings. 5. There is a famous sculptor called Anish Kapoor. You might have seen his works. So there are works of Anish Kapoor there. Then you see Rembrandt. You see all these classical painters, probably thousands of paintings. You see the whole museum for 3 days. One museum takes 3 days to see, 3 to 4 days. Another museum takes probably half day. You come out, after 1 week, you think about what you saw in this museum where you saw 10,000 paintings. You will not remember anything. What I remembered is only 5 pieces I saw in this another museum. So doing too many things will not really give us anything at the end of the day. You need to really stick to one single idea and push it to the limit. Yesterday I had a client meeting and I told the client, the money you give is to run the firm. But for me, it is an intellectual growth. I want to explore each and every project that way. So you are thinking, this word exploration has become very, very important word to me these days, because architecture is a journey. Each and every project is a journey. It's an exploration. It's an investigation into things, into an unknown. There is no known. It's an investigation into an unknown. So it should be, when you're investigating, then you need to know where to really stop certain things. And then in this house, I still think whether I did a right thing or not. Okay, I did all this. Okay, I wore a khadi. Okay, and somebody might think that I'm a politician. Then what I did was I introduced a nice silk jerry to the khadi, to the bottom. That is my detailing of the house. So in certain areas, wherever we were like tied up with our hand and create and all the screaming ideas, we release them here and there, so that we show we are capable of doing that. Also, probably I don't know whether it's a good move, but if I continue with the same restraint through the whole house, it would have become a very serious house. I don't know whether everyone would have liked, because a house is not just for me. A house is for everyone, right? Then also I like this idea of things that do not really generally work together. There are different time periods, there are different experimentations that happen in design. Like we talk about retro, 70s, 80s, we talk about industrial era, we talk about modern architecture. So what I like is bringing things that don't really generally work together and see that friction between them. See that have you heard of this album by Hariharan and Les, Colonial Cousins? Yeah? So it's a very interesting amalgamation of Indian ragas and Western composition. So, this house I tried to bring things that do not really belong together and see that friction between them. It's interesting to see that friction between things that don't belong together. And then, as I said, I'm really fascinated with this idea of timelessness. You build something and you don't feel you built it probably 6 years ago. You feel that it's been there forever. It ages like a pickle, like leather. The more you use it, the more it goes, the more character it gets. Yeah. So give life to materials. Use materials that age. So that was about idea of timelessness. Then the idea of spirit, the idea of past, and the idea of memory. That I spoke about the history, my influences. Growing up in Madhugiri, the fort, the temples, the stepwells, all this. Can we really do a house with all this? We tried a house, I'll show you. Okay? So this is the house we built. This is probably 3 or 4 kilometers from here for you guys. So the program is very simple. This is east, south, west, and north. My wife wanted to do something with Vastu, so we stuck to basic Vastu. And the house for me is a story. it's not just the program. All of us will need the program. If a client says we need 3 bedrooms, we will give 3 bedrooms. If a client says that I need a library, we give a library. But what is beyond the program is the story that is for you. You know, that is the intellectual investigation. That's the intellectual growth an architect will have in each and every project. So coming to the program, so that's the entry. You enter and there are a lot of courtyards in this house. The house brings few courtyards. The idea of the solidity of the fort. My house does not have any external windows. Very few. If you see, you will see 2-story back walls. And the house is like a box. No one expects that there is something inside so nice and so beautiful. I mean, you have to say, that's my house also. If you say that, then not that one. So, everything is inward looking. Everything is inside. It's sanctuary in its own self. There was a competition to design a house for COVID. The brief was to design your own sanctuary. The time has come to a stage where people spend months and months working from home, not going outside because of COVID. Then the house cannot be a prison. The house needs to be a sanctuary. The house needs to be a temple. The house needs to be a city. The house needs to be a village. The house needs to have its own streets. The house needs to have its own areas where you can hang out. All this. The house is now come to a place where you take the whole experience that you have in the world, squeeze it into a house. That's your house. The challenge is how do you really squeeze it? Yeah. So the program-wise would enter. That's the east facing. This is all open to sky. There's a puja there. The living, the fragmentation of the idea that I was talking about. The living is separated. We all have, you guys know how dirty we are in the kitchen. We cook like Western world. You go to the kitchen, it's all specked and clean and neat. They don't cook anything. There's their kitchen. They order food, comes, freeze it, put it in microwave, eat the same food for 3 days, 2 days. But we are not like that. We cook. We make a mess. So the idea was from the beginning itself separate the living from dining and kitchen, so that your own closer circle. If at all, if you want to dine with them, they come in. Otherwise, it's a living and you entertain and they go. So the fragmentation started to happen. So now you can see from the living, you can see all this. From dining, I can see all this. Yeah. And then this is the kitchen here and the dining. And then there is one more courtyard here and another courtyard here. So basically, the house has 3 courtyards, 4 courtyards actually. And then there is 1 bedroom in the ground floor and a garage is the corner side. When you go to the next floor, there is a flight of steps that goes up. If you turn right, you will get 1 bedroom. If you turn left, there is another bedroom. If you go straight, there is a library. The puja becomes more like these old stone temples that you see. It is standing on its own. I will show you some images of how much we struggle to really bring the character of puja the way it exists in some of the villages and puja, the temples that were built by locals for probably 600, 700 years ago. What I realized in building this house is whatever was so basic, we are built with stone. Today, if you want to build anything with stone, it is more expensive than brick. It's unfortunate, but then that's how it is, And I have to mention this before I forget. There is this idea of making a house and building a house. Building a house has connotations with engineering. Making a house has connotations with craft. So this house is all about making a house, not building a house. Making is with hands. Making is with intentions. Making has imperfections. It is not perfect. So I strongly believe that making has a quality that is timeless. We never built anything. We didn't really engineer anything in the past. We made everything. We lifted everything. We plastered everything. We did not cast much. We carved, right? So these are the very primordial basic instincts of man and architecture. So in this house, we try to really stick to that idea. Can we really make things? Can we really craft? Can we make a house as a art project? Than just building, engineering, of course engineering is there, of course structure is there, needs to be stacked. But in the essence of architecture is all about making. So this is how the house looks. So basically there's one courtyard, another courtyard there, the entry courtyard. So all these courtyards are kind of breathers in the house. I never lived in this house. This is my vacation house, the Bukit Palace. But now I'm living there for past 2-3 weeks. Some of the courtyards, if you stand in the night, you feel you have not done a fan to 3 or 4 and you're standing there. So the courtyards really cool the house. The courtyards play a major role in climatologically really affecting the microclimate of the house. So I always encourage people to really introduce whatever we have forgotten. Courtyards were our language. This is how we live. And courtyards can take really different programs. The other day I was sitting in the house and then my wife said, "Oh, where do I wash my clothes?" She went out and in the courtyard she was washing. And then my kids came and they took their breakfast, they went out and they sat in the courtyard. So the courtyard can take very different kind of programs. We Indians are all about organic way of life. And we are not structured like Westerners, or sit at the dining table and eat. No. We sit wherever we want to sit and So a courtyard is such a great place which can really absorb all these activities. It can add a different dimension to your house. It can add beauty to your house. Light comes in, rain comes in, leaves fall. Then there is this idea of elements coming into your house. So this is in 2019. The plot is very small, 50 by 60 feet, and it's all concrete, cast inside. It's like we have something called a sakraichu. I don't know whether there's somebody in Karnataka. So it's a sakraichu. In real terms, yeah, it's a formwork done in wood and casted. So literally the house was built in wood and casted, and we removed the formwork so that the house is concrete now, right? So it was a challenge to build this house in Tumakuru because it was very difficult to make people understand how to work with concrete in this scale. Yeah. And this is the formwork. So every 3 feet you build things in wood. And then you pour, after 2 days you repeat a part, and then you build on top of that. So that's 2019. 2020, it took me 6 years to build this house. 6 years. Okay. Not because it's a big project or a difficult project. It's because when you try to do something unconventional, it's very hard to really convince people to really do unconventional things. So, and COVID came for, I was there for 2 years, so it took me around six years to build this house. 2020, we reached the first roof. So 2021, you started to see the spaces getting contained. When I started to do the other formwork and we started to pull, the walls would chip off. There's chipping everywhere. There are imprints of the wood on the concrete, just like our fingerprints. If you come to my house, you will see each and every band is different. Just like the way each and every finger of every individual in this universe is different. This house is unique that way. And there was chipping every time, and I written something about this house. It was a labor pain whenever they pulled the formwork apart. Because I didn't know what they will get at the end of the day. Some casting would be amazing, some casting will be bad. So we started to worry, and then what happened? We started to really celebrate the imperfection. There was a chipping in one wall. I built 3 feet. I saw 4 or 5 pieces chipped. I built the whole wall. The chipping became like a language. It became, somebody came to my house and they said, "Oh, this is intentional, this chipping." So there is a word called field. When you repeat rhythmically certain things, it becomes a field of things. So this chipping became a field on the walls. So it kind of added that the quality of imperfection, that is innate nature of craft. Craft can never be perfect. It is because it is done with hand, right? So I feel that's also a character of a lot of the timeless buildings that you see. See, that's the double height building getting built. That's the library steps, the dining. So that's the library there. This is looking from the dining front the library. There's a double light really there. The steps from the dining going into one of the rooms. So you can see, I mean, I don't think I need to talk much. There is this sense of, a character that I'm talking about this house not as a owner but as an architect. A character that you see in a lot of the historic buildings, temples. I started to celebrate the steps. I'm sure some of the images where you will see that steps become almost like the main feature of the house, and the idea of urban design really played into it. If you come to this house, you feel it's a small village. It has got streets, it has got courtyards, it has got places, communal places where you can hang out. So, urban design in a way helped you to kind of distill architecture to create something which is really what you see in a resort, what you see in a small village, what you see in a small settlement. So this is, you can see the axial connection. This is looking from one of the courtyards at the end of the dining to the entry passage. So see, this is the finished product. So if you can see the transformation that happens, I could not believe my own, because this is my first project. I'm not with anything till now. I had to earn my own money to do my stuff. and when I saw this, I could not really, I mean, the joy of creation is something, you feel like a God. I believe that the God gave the spark of creativity for us to feel what He feels right when He created us. You know? So, when you design something and it has come out the way you want it, you will just cry. Your tears will just roll down. So that's the house, that's the main courtyard. That's the garage in the back, there's a street there, and one of the rooms, you go right, there's a room, that's the puja, or front it's all stone, that's the dining, into the courtyard. There's another room, there is so there is a lot. So this project became for me as a kind of an experiment to kind of realize what it means to build something like this. So now I'm going to talk about my own observations on any project for that matter. If you want to really make the timeless, what are some of the characters of timeless architecture? These are my observations. As I said, it's highly subjective. You might discover something else. Yesterday I was telling somebody that there is no one way to really build a meaningful piece of architecture. There are probably millions of ways. This is one of the ways. So for me, what is timeless architecture? That which is honest and truthful in its expression, and each and every element is treated with respect and dignity. A level of sensitivity that is beyond imagination, a simplicity that is close to emotion and logic, a fundamental philosophy that everything has life. To be harmony, to resonate with a single purpose and an idea, to allow to flow much and expand without a beginning or an end. So for me, this is what timeless architecture is all about. It's about really the idea of presence, it's about atmosphere, it's about continuity, it's about a single idea that starts as a seed and goes to the end of the project. So you might have heard of this word called spontaneous Tupai. Now this is a word that comes from Roman times. Every project will have a soul. Once you find the soul of the project, there is no way anything can change anything around that will remain. So how will you really get the soul of a project? Sometimes it's the material. You put something near Sri Lanka Hills, put a stone, full of columns. You build a project inspired by that, same material, same. So it will become like it's been there forever. And also creating that atmosphere brings a sense of presence, brings a sense of soul into the project. And I'm going to talk about character introduction, part of Texas architecture. All this, when it comes together in a meaningful way, you really get here. And point number one, which is the spirit of a place. Once you have a spirit of a place, then I feel it becomes timeless. Your work becomes timeless. So this is the book I was talking about. So these are the steps to the library. See the way the light is handled. You moment that happens, you climb up that light. Then I also feel that if you can really bring elements in a meaningful way into your project reaches a quality of engineering. So bringing air, bringing light, technology is very, very important in any project. So, it is very fundamental to really work with climate, to really bring in climate, to work with, the other thing is, for me, a house is something, it's like a living being. You need to clean it, you need to sweep it. Things break, you need to fix it. That's the house. It's not like, okay, I built a box, I live within it, everything has to be inspected, clean. That's not us. So, Kannada, what is it? Think that's a house. Yeah. So, bringing nature, bringing this in my house, if it rains, the rain comes in. If there is sun, this is sun. I've seen full moon days from the courtyard in the house. So, basically, bringing nature also helps you to kind of elevate your work to a different level of experience. Then, the idea of making, I was talking about craft, right? I was talking about engineering, I was talking about craft. Recently, I was talking to people that we should be really looking at ways in which we take the same material that we use and use it more in a way that we involve the craft aspect of making. For example, rammed walls. It's a craft. The predictability is less. The imperfection is there. So, and then concrete is a beautiful material. That could really, so what I want to say is, for example, the soup, the same ingredients. Why soup? Made by your mom, made by a chef, everything. It is different because it's the proportions in which it is done. What comes first? When the garnishing comes, when the masala goes in, when it boils, that's all it is. It's the same ingredients, but how you bring them together. How do you really bring them together? What comes after what? How do you really make them so simple that it is just that, nothing else? So, I feel that we really look at how honestly I can express my building materials. How fundamentally I can express my ideas without any contamination from Opetada or any other architect. It's you. It's you, nothing else. You are history. What you see around you is you. Okay? Influences are nice, but they should not influence your work. Yeah? Then primordial. So, lot of experimentation, trying new things, trying to see whether you can really work in a different manner will give you really different results, which is very, very important for an architect. And how you really approach a project. What kind of finishes, what kind of texture, what kind of materiality, what kind of building, the way you build also is different. Then, how do you want to express it? So you could take a brick wall, you can plaster it without really seeing any grains of the wall, without seeing any bonds. You could expose the brick wall. Then you start to see its own character, the way it is built, the way it is made. Or you could just, build a brick wall, probably have a smooth coat or something on top of that, so that still there are undulations, there are imperfections. There is this idea of craft. So taking the material and your own spin on expression also really helps you to move your work towards this idea of timelessness. So if you want to be very simple, you want to be more sophisticated, all this really plays into your work. The walls you build contain spaces. The materiality of the architecture brings in a quality into those spaces. So you need to be really thinking about your materials from the beginning of your project. You need to be experimenting. Now you have a sky is the limit. You know Lumion, you know all the softwares. You can try a lot of things. See what works. Look at from study time, study climatology. Build a building that is like a living being. Don't build a building that just satisfies program. Build it as though it is for its own life, as though it is its own individual. You know, it has its own beauty. No matter whether you live in it or not, it lives on its own. This is the idea of timelessness. So these are what I did in this house is I used a lot of white steel. I let it rust. So a lot of the areas, if you come to my house, still you will see rusting happening. Then I arrest the rust with some kind of a coating. So I didn't want to do that, but then family pressure, I have to do it. So why everything is falling apart? You know, that's the pressure. But when you use materials that can age, you really elevate your expression of the way you have, you know, use the material. The idea of aging is a beauty. Wood ages, stone ages, concrete ages. So try to really look at material palette and see how you can really work with this idea of raw beauty of the material itself so that it interacts with nature, it interacts with elements, and it becomes one with the elements, as though it is living with the elements. So you can see a lot of imperfection. So we started to really celebrate it, but there is a very thin line between noise and music. Yeah. So you need to really understand that thin line. That does not happen in a day. You start building, you start experimenting on your own, then you realize how to walk that thin line between what is totally imperfect and what is totally perfect. And also the market has come to a place where people really, it has become a struggle to really get things built. So in a way, I feel that imperfection will work in an advantage for you. But all that you need to do is, you need to really control that, and you need to kind of, in a way, whatever you achieve, you need to kind of find techniques to celebrate that.